Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining Encore Palm Beach County for our special presentation. As always, Encore has exciting programs and information to share with you. And so to get us started, I would like to introduce you to our founder, Rosemary Nixon, to introduce our special guest. Rosemary, take it away.
Good morning. Thank you, Christine, and thank you, Richard, for being here with us today. As people may know, Richard Ross is one of the founders of Mature Temps, I guess about 50 years ago, Richard, and you've been active in the senior job market ever since. And today you're talking with us about work from home jobs that MANPOWER is trying to fill. Before we get to that, however, let's learn a little bit about you. You've said that your passion is helping seniors enjoy a more fulfilling and rewarding life. And how did this begin with you and develop into a lifelong passion?
Well, truthfully, it started in a way when I was about 10 years old, which sounds funny, but a family member of mine had been the first person really to provide insurance to seniors in this country by starting with the New York State retired teachers, gaining them insurance, then moving on to the national retired teachers, and then co-founding AARP with Dr. Ethel Percy Andrews. And so from an early age, I understood about seniors, the importance of helping seniors, and his field was medical, was insurance. And just for an example, he would bring us, in those days, 10,000 index cards to put in alphabetical order for mailings. Seems like a long time ago and a lot of different stuff, but that was what we did at that time to help. And then as the years went on, I worked in the environment, the original Mature Temps, and our goal was to put seniors to work at that time. And I've stayed with that through the years. I'll leave it at that and let you go on with the questions. I'll come to how we got to where we are to today.
Okay, well, it's hard to remember a time before Medicare and before your uncle started a medical insurance program for seniors. So how did seniors pay for medical care before that?
They paid for it out of their pockets. And that was a problem for seniors at that time because many of them were retired, didn't have the money to pay for it. They may have had a program through, for example, the Retired Teachers Association, but they didn't really have, other than teachers, didn't have it. And so, in fact, Medicare came along in the mid 60s. Before that, it was, as I say, self-pay. I remember, because at that time I was working for Colonial Penn Insurance while I was going to school. And our concern at Colonial Penn was, is Medicare going to put us out of business? Because we were doing insurance to these seniors. And if anything, it enhanced it because Medicare has a copay. So that's how the insurance companies and through AARP came along as the copay companies. And it just boomed from there. But before that, they had to pay for that out of their own pockets, which meant a lot of seniors didn't go to doctors and didn't have things done that they needed to have done.
You know, a lot of people do not realize that, well, going back before the 60s, even going back to like the 30s and 40s, a lot of seniors ended up in what would you call it? Old age homes, poverty shelters, and so forth, because there were no programs for them.
Well, it's also why, as the years have gone on, between medicine and insurance, people have lived longer because they didn't live longer when they didn't have the insurance to take care of themselves and go to doctors and have treatments and things done. So if they needed replacements of knees and hips and stuff, they didn't have the money to do it. They didn't do it. And it took years off their lives, where today, between Medicare, AARP insurance, and other types of insurance, as well as scientific innovations, people now live longer and healthier. And, you know, when you had a bad hip or a bad knee, you ended up in bed. Now, a month after you have a hip replacement, you're out playing, you know, golf or whatever you do. Maybe not tennis after a month, but golf. So that's major changes over the years that have come about, both innovation and also having insurance.
Okay. Now, your uncle was one of the co-founders of AARP.
Yes.
What was the thinking about why there was a need for AARP apart from the insurance aspect?
Well, what happened was they insured National Retired Teachers Association, which was what Dr. Ethel Percy Andrews was the president of. And they started getting literally thousands of letters from people saying, I'm not a teacher, I need medical insurance, can you help me? So his idea was to do it both to provide health insurance to people who didn't have it, and to widen the scope of people who could get it, but also to create an environment to be able to pursue interests and to be able to let people in this age category know they're not alone. There are similar interests and problems, and that whether it was Modern Maturity, which was the original magazine of AARP, or current magazines, AARP had provided information to people as well as avenues. I mean, Colonial Penn also then opened the first first travel agency based for seniors. It was called Grand Circle Travel. They developed a mobile home park in Leesburg, Florida, again, one of the more upscale first ones, and they created Mature Temps to try to help seniors go back to work. So Colonial Penn really tried to cover many areas, and his vision was very, very unique for the times. This was back in the 60s, to look at it and try to create opportunities for people to live better and to live longer, but to live better. And he was a true visionary. And in fact, he is departed, he died about 20 years ago. He founded the Leonard Davis School of Gerontology at University of Southern California, which is today the only school of gerontology that offers a undergraduate, a master's, and a PhD in gerontology. He was, as I say, a true visionary.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That is information I'm sure most of us are not aware of, and it's always good to have background. So with the founding of Mature Temps in 1969, you began a 50+ year career helping seniors find work. Was it always in terms of finding temporary assignments, and why? Or was there resistance to hiring for permanent positions, or was the feeling that this is what seniors wanted?
I think you just combined them all. What happened was, when we started in 69, I started in 70, I was there was reluctance. I'll be honest with you. One of the first experiences I had, and I was 25, 26 years old, was I was trying to sell someone on utilizing seniors. And she said to me, "Oh, I won't use seniors." I said, "Why?" She says, "Oh, they die in your office." And I said, "Have you ever had anybody die in your office?" "No, but they all have diabetes." I said, "Well, the woman out front seems to be in our age category." "Oh, but she's different." And we did face a lot of resistance, but we had a number of companies that saw the benefits of using seniors, the dependability, reliability. They may have gone in as a temporary, but they'd stay and become permanent in many situations. It was a situation where they like to see how the person would work out before they'd make them a permanent hire. For example, one of our clients was Vanguard, the financial company, and we would probably give them 50 to 75 people a year that they would hire permanently after they had been there for a few months as temporaries. So we did both. We put them into temporary situations, and then they became permanent. We did face, of course, resistance, as still exists today, in terms of resistance in hiring older workers, or as we like to also say, experienced talent. You know, as I've mentioned to you, Rosemary, I wish I could send everybody in the position of ordering employees a copy of the movie The Intern. There's never been a better example of a senior doing an incredible job than the movie The Intern and the Exotic Marigold Hotel, where she teaches the call center people how to work with English-speaking people from India. But in The Intern, he shows changing careers, mentoring younger people, reliably cleaning up the junk desk nobody younger would touch, and even mentoring the owner of the company. That is a perfect example of what we've seen through our careers of the senior going into work in an office. And that's what we're trying to do now, is put more people to work. And Manpower has made a major commitment to putting people back to work and putting seniors back to work. If I can, and maybe it's one of your questions, how this came about 3 years ago, everyone saw that unemployment was unbelievably low and companies couldn't find workers. And I realized from my background and career experience that the only untapped resource in this country were seniors. And so it was a matter of trying to put them in an environment to be aware of job opportunities. And I was fortunate to get a meeting with AARP. AARP hired me as a consultant to analyze and help them choose a national staffing service to work with for this project. And I worked with that for about 6 months till we determined which companies. And it's funny, there were 5, I'm not going to mention the names. One of them, one of the large ones, never even bothered to call me back. Another largest one said to me, we don't have the time or the resources to deal with this. Showed me a little bit of their attitude towards seniors, possibly. We, over the process, and we interviewed the others, we selected Manpower. When I called Manpower and spoke and left a message for the president, I got a call back in a half an hour of, what do we have to do to get this project from Manpower? Which showed me their commitment to working with seniors, to helping seniors. Yes, they wanted to fill more jobs, of course, but he saw this as an opportunity to help this age group and to fill it with people who would be good employees and steady employees. And that really impressed me and impressed ARP a lot. And that's why the selection was made to go with Manpower. And I went with Manpower. They thought I know something about this, so they hired me. So it's worked out well, and we're expanding that now into virtual call centers, realizing the need for seniors and many people, even as COVID may hopefully be winding down, a lot of people would prefer to work from home than to go into an office or go commute or things of that nature. And our experience has shown that those people would prefer to work from home. As experience has shown over the last year and a half, there was a fear when people working from home, would they be distracted? Would they work less? Would they watch television instead of working? And that hasn't proven. It's, in fact, the opposite is proven. People have been dedicated to doing their job. And so we started this program to help fill virtual job call centers. And we're now seeing major clients signing on. One client that we have now has 2,000 people working in virtual call centers. So we feel this would be perfect for seniors to work in a virtual call center. And so that's where we're expanding our efforts to try to reach as many people as possible to let them know of the opportunities.
Okay. You're a forward-thinking person, and obviously when you first got in touch with Manpower, that was a time when unemployment rates were down, Richard, and people were looking to fill positions. Encore, which we began our work in 2016, we saw that there were opportunities for seniors, but there were still many people who over 50 who had lost their jobs in the Great Recession of 2008, had never really found the kind of work that they had before or at the income levels of what they had before. And many of them have dropped into the ranks of what they call the long-term unemployed. And those people are very hard to reach. They are potential workers from home. Many of them are educated. We've met them, professional people. So they're capable of it, but the reaching of them is difficult. And that is why we're trying to help
And we
your
appreciate it.
effort by spreading the word. But we're a small organization, even though we send out about 1,000 emails a week and newsletters and so forth. I think you understand with marketing, only we have an open rate on our emails and newsletters of about almost 30%, which is very good.
Yes.
However, we don't have the capability of knowing, have people acted on it? You know, we put the links to connect with Manpower.
Mhm.
Do you have, and then of course the pandemic has exacerbated the situation. So employers have let many employees go, and among them
I think Rosemary, I think your computer is having a problem. Let me pick up from,
over 50.
okay, your computer is not getting there. So let me try to respond to it. The pandemic, yes, caused a problem. There's certain things that are still causing problems. Here in Florida, where I am, and I think most of you may be, there's real problems because people are not going to work. And in Florida, where a lot of the clubs in Florida, for example, would bring people over from South Africa and Australia to fill seasonal jobs, they didn't come because they couldn't come this year. So they're depending on local people, and it's not enough people going to work, and it's national. It's a problem throughout the country. But what you find, the bias, and this is something that I've set as a goal for myself as well, is how to change the narrative. You know, AARP has probably 1,000 companies who've signed an employment pledge, but I would guess that probably no more than 100 companies even know they signed the pledge, because it's been years and those people aren't there. It's not a problem to try to convince a senior level HR person about the benefit of using seniors. The problem gets down to when you pick the person who picks up the phone to place the order. And that's where we have to get down to the person who's actually placing the order, calling in to fill, to get people to work. That person has to understand the benefits of using seniors. And that's something that hasn't happened yet. Also, because ageism, age discrimination is a level 2 discrimination in employment law. There's more discrimination against it than if you were looking at ethnicity or sex or other issues, which are level 1. You know, since there's less financial, I guess, risk to a company of discriminating against age, there's more of it. And that's something that we have to work on in the future to change. And I believe through Encore, working with some of the people in Encore and myself, we're going to try to make that change in the public, in the corporate eye.
Richard, you mentioned the difficulty with HR people.
Yes.
Not getting the message. Today and tomorrow, one of our board members is attending a conference of HR managers in West Palm, and she's bringing the information about Encore. And so that's one little effort that we're making to reach them. And the other is we're working on an event recognition event for October called Wisdom and Experience, to recognize employers who are what we call age friendly, who are have a commitment to hiring, retraining, and retaining experienced, mature workers. And so those are two efforts that we're putting out to try and reach those HR people. We do have a pretty close connection with the HR Association of Palm Beach County. Do you have ideas of what more we could do in terms of reaching HR people? Because that seems to be or decision makers in companies, because HR people aren't always the decision makers. They carry out the directives from above. So what more can we do about that?
One of my ideas that I'm going to try to develop over the next few months is a training module that when companies hire new people in the HR department and train them, that our training module, I won't say extolling, but explaining the benefits of utilizing seniors is part of their training program. I think that would help at least raise the issue in the training process and might be able to convince some of these HR lower level people, who are the ones who pick up the phone, to look at more of a effort to reach out to seniors, whether it's to seniors groups, because the current, put it on Indeed or put it on Glassdoor or any of the rest of them, aren't enough. It isn't going to work. So they're going to have to be a little bit more proactive in reaching out to groups to try to find people. And I think if they have a training program and believe in the benefits of utilizing seniors, they might be willing to try it. And I think that's part of it. And I'm going to be working with Janine, who's also in Encore Network, in her Change the Narrative, and see if we can put together this training module as an effort to incorporate it into their training program, into companies' training programs. Beyond that, we're going to have to be creative, and that's the challenge. It really is. You don't change something that's been there forever overnight, but we have to take the steps.
It's interesting that, as I said, in the recession of 2008, where so many people over 50 lost their jobs, and then in the pandemic once again, and yet employers don't seem to recognize the fact that our birth rate in this country is declining greatly. And so if anybody is thinking beyond tomorrow or the day after, if they're really thinking about workforce development, they have to be asking themselves, where are the workers coming from? And maybe we need to hang on to some of the ones we have. It's like, and now they're calling us and other people frantic to find employees now that we're coming out of the pandemic. It's almost like it's a problem of their own making, employers.
Well, I think there's a lot of factors in there, but yes, they're so far unwillingness to reach into groups that they haven't historically reached into is part of the problem, because companies are, many companies are not known as age friendly, as you've talked about, and age friendly. So that seniors have been turned off by those companies and don't necessarily want to go there. When you have somebody put in an application and it asks for age, and the drop down doesn't go down to your year that you were born, that's telling you we don't want you here because you're too old, or you put in too many different experiences, or the year you graduated college or high school, whichever the case may be. I'm not saying that all companies discriminate, but I think that companies have not looked at it seriously enough yet. And they are now, because they're being forced to. The ability to reach into the senior market is necessary for them because of short, when Walmart did the greeting program, that was outstanding, because it took people who were sitting at home and it gave them an opportunity to mingle, to be there, to socialize, to help people. One of my feelings, which is I'm not alone in this, is when people retire, many of them lose their identity. They were this or they were that, or, and now they don't have that. And working gives them an identity back, and also the opportunity to be productive, help people. For example, a call center, you're helping people. You're solving problems, you're moving it on, you're resolving things, and people need to feel productive, even later in life. We all know people in their 80s and 90s who are still doing things productive, keeping their minds going. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting closer. And I think that's an important factor to realize the emotional, not only the financial. And people retired. Many of them retired when interest rates were 5-6%. They were living off the Social Security and the income from their investment. Well, now it's zero. And a lot of people are really stuck and they're hurting. And going to work and making some money would be very good for them. So, we look at it as a two-way street. Yes, we need to fill jobs and satisfy clients. But the other side of it is, yes, we can help people. And that's what, hopefully we'll continue to do as we move it along.
Just out of curiosity, if Walmart had such a good program, why did they stop it?
I don't know if they wanted to spend the money.
There we go.
I don't know. I can't. But you mentioned about people laid off during the pandemic. We've seen, and ARP seen and shown it. It was an opportunity for companies to fire higher paid older workers, and they did. And a lot of the older workers will let go, and they're never going back. And ARP also says that a 50-year-old person losing their job, it can take 2 years or longer to find a job if they ever do, and it's rarely ever at the same kind of compensation they were making before.
Right.
And you're 50 years old today, you've got 20 years, 20, whatever it is, years left that you can be productive. And yet somebody's telling you, no, you're not. And 50 is the new 60 in terms of employment. People look at you differently. I have a 50-year-old daughter, and she was so happy not to get an ARP card in the mail. She just doesn't look at herself as being an ARP member. And I remember ARP, when it started, I think it was 60 years old. Now they've taken it down to 50 years old. And it's something that, it's a psychological thing. People today, it's like at my last birthday, which I won't mention the age, I said, how did I get here so fast? And it's something that, we all get there fast, and you have to enjoy it, but you have to stay productive. It's all relative. I'll give you one of the people in my poker game up north is 94 years old, and he's still sharp. And they were talking about someone else who had died who was 90, and he goes, "Oh, so young?" It's all's relative. If you're still sharp and you're still productive and you still want to do something, it doesn't matter the age.
So Richard, getting back to work from home jobs.
Yes.
What do you hope to accomplish with this effort? And while you were talking, I was also wondering, so many call centers were staffed with people from other countries who didn't speak very good English. Are companies bringing those call center jobs back? Is this part of what's the need?
I'm not sure. I hope so, personally, because I've had some difficulty with it in terms of people in foreign countries, but I think it's a matter of companies are now expanding work from home as they don't reopen their their central locations. They're looking to fill with people from working from home. I don't know, I assume some of them are coming over here from overseas because these are creating new jobs in America, which I think is great. But the language, you're right. People, you're always right. You'd like to speak to someone who understands what you're asking them and can help you. And
Sure.
I think that's one of the benefits of having call centers in America, more call centers in America. And doing it virtually allows you to also have, instead of central, like, you can have people in New York working for a call center in Los Angeles, which means they can open up at 6 in the morning, at 6 in the morning LA time, or the reverse, they open till 8 o'clock at night in LA for a New York company. So there are benefits of doing that and having people spread out over the country. It gives them a wider period of time to work.
One of the things I've learned working with Encore is the people we reach. Many of them are early birds like myself. I'm up sending messages at 6:30 in the morning.
I know, I see them.
But others are late night people. They're sending me messages at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I see them and I say, "What are you doing up so late?" So we span the spectrum, and there really is an enormous resource in people over 50 and under 50 for work at home jobs. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about how this program work at home jobs, how people get in touch with it, what they can expect, and at the end, we're going to put up the information about the email address, and in our newsletter, we had a link that people could connect to fill out a form. And later this week, we hope to put that portal to Manpower Work at Home Jobs on our website so people going forward can connect with it. So just tell us a little bit more about how you see this all working.
Okay, what the process is that people would be contacting Manpower through the link or the email address, whichever they're more comfortable doing. You'll show a little bit later. And once they contact us, they would be asked a few questions to identify their qualifications for a work from home call center. And then they would be contacted by the Manpower representative, whose name is Cheryl. If they're not qualified or not interested in the call center job, they would also be contacted to see if there was something local that we could work with them on to place them, to give them a job opportunity. It wouldn't be a call center possibly, but it would be something else that might fit what their skills are, what their wants are, what their hours are, something like that. So we're going to try to reach each of the people that contact us and see what opportunities are available to them. Hopefully it's the call center, but if it's not, something else locally. And they're not going to be left out there. They're going to be contacted.
Okay, that's great. So one of the other questions I had, Richard, apart from the work at home jobs and the connection to Manpower, is there a job portal for mature temps or whatever other entity is focused on helping people find jobs that could be put on our website?
Well, here in Palm Beach County, which is where I am also, there are Manpower offices that if they wanted to, they could contact the Manpower office if they wanted to work something, not necessarily the call centers, but to work on other environments, other jobs. They could contact, and I'll get you that information and put in the portal. So they could contact that office, and I have the name of the person to see what's available for them. As I say, there's a lot of jobs open right now, and it's not going to get better quickly.
I've gotten calls from at least 3 entities, businesses looking for people, healthcare workers and so forth. We do have on our website, on our resources page, a link to the local Manpower office. Joan Greenberg has been active with Encore since we began.
I met her for coffee yesterday.
Okay.
And we talked about how to help each other. And this is how we, our goal is to put people to work, whether it's through our call centers or through the local Manpower office. That's the goal. And whichever way it works the best for the individual is what we try to do.
Maybe Joan and I need to talk about some of these companies that are reaching out to us to find people. They may not want to pay a search firm such as Encore to find somebody, but maybe she would like to know, like I just got a call from somebody at Allegiant Health Services. They're looking for healthcare workers. Well, are they calling the Manpower office? I don't know what they're doing, you know? So it's starting to get active in terms of looking for people. So apart from the contact information, which we've shared in our newsletter, and the email address that we'll post at the end, did you have anything more to say about the work at home effort that you're involved with that we haven't covered?
No, just that we're looking for people right now, and hopefully, if the people on the call or whatever, if they have interest, that they can contact us through the sites that you're giving them. And hopefully we all work together to help these people help seniors get work. That's the goal. That's, as I've said to you, this is my last rodeo, and I want to make it a good one.
Well, I think there are two levels of work that need to be done. One is changing the narrative, which is something that has to happen on a high level nationally with big people, not us little folk here on the ground. But that's also where it needs to happen, is on the ground and in the national media.
Right. And it'll also start with a change in the law, as I mentioned. That bill has been in Congress to make it a level 1 discrimination. That bill has been in Congress at least 3 years that I'm aware of. It's an ARP-sponsored bill, and I don't think it's moved anywhere. Evidently, Congress isn't that interested in making age discrimination a level 1 at this point, but hopefully they change it. Once you start putting money on something, companies start being more aware of it, penalties.
Well, maybe there are other organizations that need to be mobilized to move that legislation forward.
I hope so. We'll talk about it. And
okay. Well, that's beyond our pay grade right now. But before we part and open it up for questions, okay. Richard, you have had an extensive career in philanthropy. Would you share with us what your areas of focus are, and if you think Encore should be doing more than we are, anything that you would suggest?
My areas of philanthropy have been the young and the old. Our attitude, our belief is the middle can take care of themselves. So we've done a lot of senior areas. I am on a board of a senior facility in New Jersey. We've also given a lot of money to things like ALS, to various diseases where we see an outcome. Our goal is for seniors, is to brighten their day, to make it a little better. Something, when we donated money to one of the senior facilities to build new gardens, I insisted they put music out there, which they never thought of. I said, this way, when someone is sitting out there, they're not only seeing beauty, they're hearing it. And we want to make people's day a little bit better. We do an awful lot with children with cancer, children with autism, all different levels of children. And in that, our goal is to let children be children, not be defined by their disease. And so our goals have been very wide in different things in most of the children's charities. And we really have seen smiles. And that's what you want to see, is smiles. Yes, you'd like to see it on seniors as well, but when you can change a child's life a little bit to make their day, their life a little bit better, that's really rewarding. So, I enjoy doing those kind of charities. And as far as what you can do with Encore, I think Encore's job and direction is perfect. I think what your goals are may be lofty, but they're ones that you have to be lofty, otherwise you never get there. As I've always believed in the saying, never accept no for an answer, find a way. And I still believe in that very strongly. It's worked. And that's what we're trying to do with the charities, is change the narrative. And hopefully, I can help you and you can help me work towards changing the narrative for Encore.
I want to thank you Richard, for your support of Encore Palm Beach County and what we're trying to do. I will tell you that I've had many communications with funding sources. And what we've found is there are very few funding sources for older people, unless it's for those who are dependent, like those who need food and transportation and so forth. Helping those who can continue to make a contribution, whether it's the work or volunteering, does not seem to be much of a priority. I mean, we've tried many funding sources, and I've been told that there's really nothing in Palm Beach County with the mission that we have to support those programs for those who can continue to make a contribution. So I thank you, and I'm sure that we're going to continue to have conversations about how we can work together to further the narrative, as you put it.
Thank you. I appreciate the time. I really do.
So Christine, do we have questions from people either in the chat or live?
Don't have any at the moment, but if anyone would like to ask a question, please unmute yourself. Excuse me. And Richard, this has been great information. Thank you for sharing with us. I actually was interested in, you had mentioned about getting in front of and interviewing with organizations. And one of the things I came across recently, that a lot of the algorithms, when you send in an application via online, is that there's a very small percentage that actually gets through to a person to look at and evaluate. Is there anything you could recommend as far as what should be included or not included in a resume or application that can help deflect from that, as far as the age issue?
Well, let me start out by saying that's not my expertise, but from everything I've heard, a couple things. One, don't go back more than 10 years on jobs. You're not going to show 30 years worth, because that's going to, if the algorithm is to knock you out, you're going to get knocked out. Try to be brief. Try to stay with what your best features, your best skills, your best interests, and commitment. If you get an interview, be sure that you showing commitment long-term. They can't ask you, not supposed to ask you things like health and age and things of that nature. So you need to be a little bit aware and prepare for the road that you're going to go down. It's unfortunate that people don't get interviews anymore. You know, you can make 20 applications and maybe you'll get one phone call interview. But that's, while they talk about being an absolute shortage of employees, they're very selective in who they'll even talk to. And that's part of the problem. But the other thing I would say is learn from the ones you get. You should always be learning from ones you get. And, you know, if you have the opportunity, even by Zoom, to be talking to someone, make sure you look at the facial movements when you say something, because if you see it not be accepted well, don't do it the next time. You know, it's a learning process, as everything is a learning process.
Right,
You know, I'm sorry, there's been much discussion about the algorithms and the job boards and so forth. I will just say that I personally believe, and what I teach people when they want to work with me, is how to network personal connections to find jobs. Back in the mid 80s, I learned then that at least 50% of jobs are found by personal networking, and nothing has really changed. And yet a lot of people are not very good at that. They think that networking is going to a chamber meeting and passing out business cards, but it's a lot more skilled. It's a skill and it has to be taught. And a lot of people have been out of work a long time, just really don't know how to go about it, and they need support and help. Have you noticed this, Richard?
Yes, especially in this age category, they, after 2 years or so, people give up. And so they're not making the effort. They're not using all of their contacts, their skills, their drive to do it. And, I would give, if you get an interview and you're in front of somebody at a company, I've always told people, research the company that you're going to see before you get there. Know what they do, know what's going on, know if they're going up or going down, if they're hiring or firing. Learn, take the time to know what it is so you can be conversant, not be a show off that you know a lot, but at least to be conversant about the company, because the good interviewer is going to ask you those questions about how much do you know about the company and the job, etc. And you better know it. I'm serious. I've seen salespeople walk into companies not knowing the first thing about them and get thrown out pretty quickly. So, I think it's the same thing on an interview. Do whatever you can to stand out from the others.
It's a selling job, really. And a lot of people are not salespeople. A lot of people looking for work aren't experienced salespeople.
Everybody's a salesperson.
Well,
And you have to
everybody
realize
needs to be, but they aren't necessarily all good at it.
No, but they have to try. We're always selling. Even if you're selling your opinion or your ideas to somebody else, we're all salespeople. And your children definitely have been salespeople their whole lives.
Richard, what would you suggest? You keep saying change the narrative, and of course us, who are involved know what that means, and we're working towards that. But what do you suggest for the average person to change the narrative? In other words, is there something we should all be doing individually to help do that? I mean, aside from, putting ourselves out there and, showing our talents and abilities, is there anything you would suggest?
Well, one thing I think, we talked about a training module from the sales side, but the other side, from the HR side, one of the other things that you can do that I've tried to do because I'm in that age category is to talk to friends about what are they going to do? What else can they do? I talked to any friend of mine who's going to retire. I said, don't you retire until you have a plan. It looks so good. Oh, I'm going to go home. I'm going to play golf. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to read books. Yeah, that's going to last a month. Trust me on this one. And I say, go get a plan so that your husband or wife doesn't want to throw you out of the house or off the top of the building. You can only play golf and go to dinner and play cards so much before you just get burned out. Look, I've gone back to work 4 times since I sold my company many years ago. And so talk to your friends who may be in this age category, or your relatives who may be in this age category. Talk to them about, you don't have a lot to do. You're somewhat bored. The TV is enough. There's not enough to watch. Why don't you think about assessing your skills, putting it down on paper, and going and applying for a job? Even if it's a temp job with a temp service, it's a start. And you will feel, as my wife, who's sitting over here smiling at me, says all the time, the fact that I went back to work this month, I'm working more now than I worked in the last 10, 20 years, because the passion is, I'll work 7 days at different points in time because it's the passion. But it creates a life in you again that may have died out for a while. And, you see that in friends and relatives. Talk to them, try to get them to at least make the effort to go back to work, to do something with their lives, even if it's volunteerism, but to do something more with their lives. And it's one person's opinion, put it that way.
Great advice. Great advice. And Rosemary can attest. That's what we speak about all the time, right, Rosemary?
Well, when I retired from as a financial advisor, I had spent many years working with people planning financially for their retirement, and I saw.
And she froze.
She froze. The wonderful world of technology.
Exactly, exactly.
99% of them did not have a plan. I mean, they were going to go fish.
That's all great for a month, 2 months.
I guess
You're breaking up, Rosemary.
Breaking up, Rosemary. Do we have any other questions? Is there anyone on the call that would like to ask Richard a question about the work from home opportunities?
Well,
No, that's surprising. I think we covered it all, Richard. You did a great job with
or I
that.
talked too much, one or the other, but
All
at least according to
Can-
my wife, I spoke too much, but that's all right. I really appreciate your time today, all of you, the time, and hopefully I've helped, expand your thoughts on this and giving you some ideas to move on with. But we're going to do this, and we're going to help people go back to work. So
Christine, would you put up that slide?
I sure will try. I say try because this never seems to work for me. So just bear with me a moment. Here we go. Hopefully that'll do it. Can you see it?
no,
No.
I just see Christine has started screen sharing. There it is.
There it is. Got it? If
Yep.
interested in learning more about work from home jobs, email specializedsourcing@manpower.com. And I'll put that in the chat as well.
Okay, great.
So thank you again, Richard.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. It's been enjoyable. And I thank all of you for listening to me, for hearing it. So I appreciate
Well,
it.
we'll talk more, of course.
Okay. Yep. All right.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.